then all of a sudden, the customers no longer perceive us as valuable because we failed to reframe the value that we create. We are currently still focused on the amount of effort that it takes us to produce a financial statement versus the amount of judgment that it takes to give people the confidence that the financial statements they're looking at make sense.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer. It's part 2 of our 2-part series with the one and only Hector Garcia. In this conversation, we'll explore how embracing technology and innovation can propel accountants and bookkeepers forward, enhancing their roles and making a profound impact on their clients' businesses, plus much, much more. All right, let's get to that conversation.
Let's transition a little bit into your conference. That's a very, sounds like a powerful one last year. This one's all about communication. Who goes to these conferences? Can anyone go? Can bookkeepers go? Can our listener right now go to this conference? And what are they going to, tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so the theme of the conference is Influential Conversations for Accountants. The conference name is actually called Reframe. That's just the name of our events business, Reframe. Why? Because my goal is to help our profession reframe us as the most creative, innovative, and forward-looking of all professions. Now, I say reframing us, I don't say convert us, because our profession is inherently past-looking. That's accounting. Accounting, it's about recording financial history, right? Our profession is about being conservative. So it's not about being innovative. It's about doing it the way it has been done for hundreds and hundreds of years so we can produce predictable results and comparable financial statements for investors to see or business owners to decide. So our profession is inherently, by design, not innovative, not forward-looking, and not creative, right? Because, and in many ways, that is why people trust us so much. That's why people like working with us, because they feel that by working with someone like us, they get a very objective point of view. Now, we are in a very interesting point in the world where we've had an attempt like blockchain a couple of years ago, an attempt to sort of overthrow traditional accounting and dual entry bookkeeping with a blockchain style systems. It wouldn't change what an accountant does, but it changes the underlying way the transactions were recorded. That was a major threat, quote unquote, to our industry. It never really panned out. It doesn't mean nothing will pan out, but that one didn't pan out. And that one is not dead, by the way. Blockchain is still very much there. People just haven't figured out how to make it, how to replace the traditional ledger with a blockchain database. So in many ways, we're like, okay, we dodged that bullet. But now we have another one, the impeding challenge with AI, where what we traditionally charge for, which is deciding how to categorize something that came in from the bank. I would say that's 99% of a bookkeeper's job, right? Something got downloaded from the bank and we make a decision in which chart of accounts it belongs to, okay? Then at the end of all that, we kind of look at the P&L balance sheet, make sense of it, make adjustments. But our day-to-day really, for the most part, the bulk of the work, what takes the most time is gathering all the transactions and putting them into our accounting system. Before OpenAI and ChatGPT, Intuit, QuickBooks Online has already been making suggestions on how to categorize certain things. Those suggestions are not that good, but you take that core plus the sort of thinking, and I'm using thinking in air quotes here, the thinking engine that ChatGPT has, that any AI system could have. And you take the historical information about how the average accountant or small business owner has recorded a Chick-fil-A expense for $27 in the past, and you take a look at the average of the median of what was done historically. Then you take the analysis from AI analyzing, okay, which, let's look at the historical transactions, let's look at the industry, let's look at the context, and you're going to get our systems, our computer systems, to accurately categorize 95% of the transactions in a very, very not so distant future. So when that happens, when that tide turns, and where small business owners see that, and their perception is they were paying you $500, $1,000 a month to do that, and now the systems can do it automatically. Intuit is not going to charge extra to do that. It's going to make it part of their QuickBooks system. FreshBooks will probably do the same. Xero will do the same. Then all of a sudden, the customers no longer perceive us as valuable because we failed to reframe the value that we create. We are currently still focused on the amount of effort that it takes us to produce a financial statement versus the amount of judgment that it takes to give people the confidence that the financial statements they're looking at make sense. So if we don't stop that from now, if we don't prep that from now, the computer systems, the automatic bookkeeping, accounting systems, QuickBooks, AI is going to make that turn, and it's going to leave us way behind. So the only tool that I can think of as a way to help us reframe our value is to be able to communicate to the people that we're working with accurately, to be able to sell our ideas, to be able to sell the trust in our judgment, to be able to make the other person feel this person knows me, this person gets me, this person understands me. Yes, the computer system can do some of the work that this person used to do, but that human-to-human trust is going to be the single most valuable piece. And then once they trust you, then they're going to hire you. Can you verify that what the AI is doing is correct? Can you help me translate the stuff that the AI is producing into real terms? Can you help me interpret this information and help me decide how to move forward with my business? So we still have a pivotal role. Like the accountant and the bookkeeper's job should be giving the business owner confidence in their numbers. That should be our job. It's not booking transactions accurately. That's how we see it. Bookkeepers and accountants, we feel that our job is to book transactions accurately. And that is true. But that's not really what customers are going to be looking at, because once you get to 95% accuracy, 95% or more with AI, with automated systems, if we thought that was our job, then we're toast.
You're out of a
So
job.
our job is to give clients confidence in their numbers. Confidence is typically not built from numbers and facts. I tell you that as a dad, as a baseball coach, a little league baseball coach. I'm telling you, telling our kids, hey, don't worry that you didn't bat. 1 out of 3 is incredible. The best baseball players have a 300 average. Don't worry that that stuff doesn't register with kids. That's what gives kids confidence, is saying, I believe in you. I will work with you. The next time you're going to be better because of it. It is the words that we say. It is the implied trust in the source of those words that gives the other people confidence. The numbers are just the numbers. So we, our industry, need to reframe our profession to what our role is before the computer systems, the software companies, the AI systems do it for us. So that's why it's called Influential Conversations for Accountants, because there's nothing more powerful that an accountant can do than have an influential conversation with someone else. That's more powerful than an accurate P&L. That's more powerful than an ironclad tax return that if it gets audited, there's no change. All that stuff will become table stakes. And it is the personal relationship, the communication, the open communication, the confidence, the trust that the two people have, the business owner and their advisor, that is going to keep us relevant and is in many ways the only thing that can help us propel forward.
Fascinating what's happening, and also refreshing to think, yes, the inevitable. There's been conversations of, look, computers eventually are going to be able to do some of the stuff that we all do, right? That's always, it's science fiction conversation's been around for 60 years. Autonomous robots and all these different things. There's always been this conversation. It's now that it's actually happening, where there are computers that are doing things faster and better than the human. And most of the humans are like, great, let's get rid of some of this stuff. Let's make this easier. The fear comes from, oh, wait a second. Hey, you're working on my stuff, right? You're going to take away the stuff I'm doing. Creates fear. But in the bookkeeping industry, the conversation of going to that conversation, the relationship building, advisory, where the real value is to the client, like you said, they're not interested in the numbers. They're interested in the story that the numbers tell them. It's just become a lot more real, which is good in many cases, because anytime there's a consequence, the increased consequence increases perhaps people's behavior and shifts behavior to go where you need to go. For sure, there's going to be people left behind and not heed the warnings and take the direction. But it sounds like your conference really is a great opportunity to get ahead of that, whether the machines take away some of the work or not, or if you want to continue doing some of that work that the machines will do. Regardless, what you're positioning is going to make a massive difference regardless in their business, and should be where everyone is focused and going to, where people have confidence in you and believe in you as the business owner and actually value what you do and the difference that you make. Sounds like an exciting conference. Reframe, it's in October. I imagine we'll have a link in the show notes, Hector, but what is the link to get there? What's the website name?
Yeah, thank you for letting me plug it. So reframe2024.com. That's
reframe2024.com.
Yeah.
We'll have it in the notes as well.
And to go back, Michael, to what you were saying about allowing computers to do our job or not allowing computers to do our job, this is, you got to take a look at history, okay? 200 years ago, we're talking about after America became independent and America became America, 95% of population was engaged in farming. 95% of our jobs were farming. Today, it's flipped. It's probably 5% or less. Now, why is that? I do not see oranges picking themselves. I do not see potatoes flying from the ground into our plate, right? But there's still humans working in farming. But we have been strongly and deeply aided by automation, machinery, technology in all sorts, not just the physical machines that pick stuff, but technology on how we produce food and how we farm food. So I don't see anybody complaining. I like, for the most part, most of us are glad that we can work with our brains, go to the supermarket and put food on the table, that we don't have to spend, weeks cultivating food so we can feed our family. So this has already happened. It's obviously that's 200 years, but if you think of just the last 30 years, okay? So 30 years ago, and yes, I was 14 years old. I wasn't in the industry, but my dad was. And I used to watch my dad working in QuickBooks. I remember very clearly QuickBooks 1995, I think, is the first version of QuickBooks that he had in his Windows computer. And I remember what he used to do is grab a piece of paper, a bank statement, a ruler, and literally type the stuff that was on the paper into QuickBooks Desktop. And in many instances, I think we have done some of that stuff even recently. You have to hand key some stuff, right?
Absolutely.
But for the most part, 95% of the transactions that we record, they either come directly from the bank or they come from an OCR system where we took a receipt and took it to a system. So part of that work has been digitized. We're not like, none of us have been up in arms about, the computer system stole our jobs. No, they enhanced our jobs. They made our jobs better, because instead of spending so much time hand keying, we can spend more time thinking. We can spend more time advising. We can spend more time talking to our clients. So even though AI feels a little scarier, because they've never made movies about automated accounting systems, but they made movies about, robots killing humans. So the challenge is that because AI has been framed around, what we fear about robots taking over, that there might be some sort of subconscious fear about what AI can do, and maybe thinking that artificial intelligence has a more malicious intent for humankind than all the technologies we've done in the past. Social media, for example. I think you and I could argue for hours in the net benefit that social media has had for society, and also the other side of the coin,
Yes.
the net detriments that is done to our kids, the attention, the shaming, all these crazy things that happen in social media that you're like, man, in the good old days, we didn't have that. In the good old days, people made fun of you in your face, and that was the only way
That's
they
right.
could do it. Now they can
didn't
hide
have
behind the
this
keyboard.
technology to get it there delivered faster.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is that almost every technological achievement has two sides of the story. Like, you can argue that cars made us lazier and we're more obese because of it, and we walk less. But also it allows us to go to places a lot quicker and not waste
Get
so
to the
much
gym
time.
a lot faster.
Exactly, get to the gym a lot faster. So that's again, you can argue that food technology has made us less healthy, but also the medicines have extended our lifespan. So I think that as humans, inherently, we always thrive. We always look for uh, our way out of it, and we kind of put ourselves into trouble, and we fix ourselves back up. And an open market of technology, like the evil AI, will have a counter evil anti AI, like Spy versus Spy. You remember that cartoon? Like, there's going to be scammer AIs, and there's going to be anti-scammers AI. There's going to be, just like there has been great software and there has been viruses for software. Like, there's always sort of a yin and yang situation happening with technology. And then you have a choice. One is you can take the pessimistic, fatalistic side and say, I'm done. This is done. We're toast. Or choose the other side, reframe your point of view and say, I'm going to write it. I'm going to write the good things that technology has given us. I'm going to write the good things that AI will give us, which is why I spent so much time, playing with ChatGPT the last year and a half and creating content around it, because I believe I'm not necessarily going to say embracing it, but by being comfortable with it, it's going to be the only way that we're going to understand how we can strategically use it to make us better.
Absolutely. That embracing of it and going back to innovation, right? That's part of the key, is that we all have to innovate regardless. Things are going to change external to us, and some of that's going to be not what we want, but then innovation allows us to innovate, to move around that, to deal with it, to embrace it, to leverage it if need be. And so those are really well connected. And I think some great framing for you around that for our listener in terms of the history of it. Everything changes. It always will. And a lot of it's really exciting and great change. And I think many, as I've seen AI doing its work, it's doing great. It's doing some great things that are going to help the industry tremendously. But with that, like you say, there's going to be pros, there's going to be cons that will come with that, and we have to innovate ourselves around that. Reframe sounds like an excellent conference. Thank you for putting that on. It sounds like, I love the name. I love what you're doing with it. I think it's going to be something that will grow. Already 100 people there. I saw some of the attendees and speakers. Ron Baker was there. Really great thing that you've put together. That's a big one. As we started out in this conversation, a big one. You also built an app. Let's talk about that. Like, you were frustrated with QuickBooks Online, and you built an app to help you do it better. How did you even think to do that? What was the catalyst of that? And let's talk about that app and what it does for people.
So it's not past tense. I'm still frustrated with QuickBooks Online. That
Right. Maybe
hasn't
that never
ended.
goes away.
Yeah, that's kind of part of life at this point. So I fell in love with this industry because of QuickBooks Desktop. Okay, like I mentioned before, my dad has been using QuickBooks Desktop for a very long time.
1995, yeah.
When I was 16, my dad said, "Hey, you want a side gig here? Yeah, can you transcribe these transactions for me?" So I actually had exposure to QuickBooks very early without even knowing like what I was doing. He's like, "Wait, you want me to type what's in here? Yeah." And for category, just put in ask my accountant. I'll figure that out later. So it was kind of funny, that basically I was just transcribing from a bank statement into QuickBooks. My dad was kind of leveraging cheap labor when I was 16, paying me $5 an hour or whatever to do that. But what got me into accounting in the first place is, I didn't start as an accountant. My major is in finance. I have a master's in finance, and I was working for a bank. And for a very long time, I was working with small business owners doing loans, and it took a long time to get the P&Ls and the balance sheets, especially the year-to-date stuff, updated from their bookkeepers. And it's through that, seeing that problem that I've said, you know what, maybe I should become an accountant. And I kind of took that path. And then very, very early on, I started using QuickBooks Desktop, and I completely fell in love with it. And I started my bookkeeping practice called Quick Bookkeeping. QuickBooks Desktop is a piece of software that holds a really big place in my heart. I will be genuinely, literally, clinically depressed the day that QuickBooks Desktop, goes to bed. So QuickBooks Desktop is still very much alive, but obviously the writing's on the wall. Everything's going to go to QuickBooks Online. Whenever a client came to me and said, I want to go to QuickBooks Online, I tried as hard as possible to keep them in desktop. There was a point, an inflection point in my life where I couldn't stop it anymore. I think it was like close to 2017 or 2018, where the tide was starting to turn, and I started embracing QBO. Now, with that, I spent many years comparing QuickBooks Desktop and QBO and reminiscing and having tons of nostalgia about the things that QuickBooks Desktop was able to do. One of the things, there's the fundamental interface difference between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, not to get into like the technical aspects of it, but with QuickBooks Desktop, you can have multiple windows open. You can have the register, you can have the bank feeds, you can have the P&L, you can have the balance sheet, and they're all different windows. That's how Microsoft Windows works, right? They have all these different windows. And the ability to go from window A to window B to like feel that you're sort of multitasking, and having what QuickBooks Desktop calls an open window list, which is a list of all the windows you had open, was my major frustration on QuickBooks Online, because QuickBooks Online is browser-based and you're working in a single tab. And even if you master working with multiple tabs is messy. So I saw a post by a gentleman by the name of Mark Corum in LinkedIn about something he was experimenting with a Chrome extension. He added a button into QuickBooks Online that didn't exist there. I forget what the button was. I think it was like a little shortcut to go from the bank register into bank feeds or back and forth. And I'm like, how did you add a button inside QuickBooks Online? And I asked him, how in the world you did this? Oh, easy, Chrome extension. And I'm like, okay, can I ask you a weird question? Could I build a Chrome extension that looks like the open window list in QuickBooks Desktop that shows me all the tabs are open and make it easy for me to swap between tabs so I can feel like I have multiple windows open, even though it's not technically multiple windows? And he's like, easy peasy. And he's like, okay, well, let's chat on Monday. Let's talk about like how much this will cost me or whatever. Literally, that conversation happened on Friday. On Sunday night, he sends me a fully programmed version. He's like, here you go. And I'm like, dude, we haven't even talked about money. Like, do I owe you something? He's like, no, free for you. And I look at it and I play with it, and it was still kind of rough. And I'm like, okay, this guy can build something in 2 days by literally just listening to my idea. And I'm thinking about the gazillion ideas I have in my head about how to improve QBO. I said, hey, let's go into business together. Let's build an app that can do this and a lot more. And here's a list of all my ideas. And I had like 10 things. And he's like, oh, 8 of those 10, I can get them done. And I'm like, hey, this is with this guy. So basically, we founded a company called Accounting Pro Tools. And the first manifestation of Accounting Pro Tools is called Write Tool. It's a Chrome extension that you install in your Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Brave. It needs to be a Chromium-based browser, so it won't work in Safari or Firefox. You install the Chrome extension, and today we have over 100 features of different things we manipulate inside QuickBooks Online that change the interface, that change the experience of how to work with QuickBooks Online, including some batching tools. Have you heard of a concept called robotic RPA, robotic process automation? We basically built macros per se, where we tell QuickBooks delete next, delete next, delete next. So like a lot of that clicking thing that we spend a lot of time just clicking on things, just doing routine deleting or routine editing. So we've built macro-like tools that can automate processes for QuickBooks Online users. So we built this really cool extension that on the free side, for the most part, is what we talked about, is the open window list, is a search of all the functions inside QuickBooks. It's an amount search. It's a custom favorites builder. This all happens on a right-sided navigation bar. And then when you upgrade to the Pro version, you get all these macro-style tools I mentioned.
Cool.
So that was the genesis of Write Tool. And today we have a Facebook group called Write Tool Power Users with almost 4,000 people, 4,000 active users. And they tell us, hey, this is not working. Hey, I wish it could do this. I wish it could do that. Or how can I improve this tool? So we have grown to crowdsource a lot of the ideas from our users to make the tool better. So we're extremely proud of what we've been able to build. In just under 2 years, we have almost 20,000 active users, combined free and pro, and about maybe 1,500 firms paying for the pro version. So we all of a sudden, we got a real business. We have 3 full-time programmers on staff, getting paid. I still don't get paid. So we'll wait to see what happens there. But we're in the process of just innovating with our customers, alongside of our customers every day.
Amazing. Sounds like something every single listener of this podcast needs to at least have if they're using QuickBooks Online. They got to get a copy of the free version to start. Sounds like the macros save them a whole heap of time as well, which is pretty exciting. This is cool. And the URL was writetool.com.
App. Writetool.app. Yeah, I wish I could get writetool.com. Yeah.
Yes.
So writetool.app, and that's 2 T. So write and then tool.app.
Write Tool. And of course, we'll have the link in the show notes for our listener to go and check that out, get it into their Chrome browsers and start using it. Maybe the last thing I'll talk about is we've talked a lot about some of the things you're doing in the industry with AI. Your conference is really reframing how conversations are going to happen. Your app, you've built efficiencies there. What do you think our listener should, if they're not jumped into AI and themselves and started to embrace this, what would you say to a person saying, well, where should I get started? How is it going to help me today that I'll start to see the benefit and get value from it right away? What's your recommendation for that?
I think there are 2 ways to jump into it and completely have an eye-opening experience. So first thing, create a free ChatGPT account. That would be my starting point, right? So no cost, just go to chatgpt.com or openai.com and then create a ChatGPT account, a free one. First thing you want to do is literally export a P&L or a balance sheet into PDF or into Excel from any existing client that you have. You can edit the name if you're worried about security, edit the name, put ABC company or whatever. Upload the P&L and the balance sheet into ChatGPT and ask it what kind of advice I can give to this client. And give it a little bit of context. They've been in business for 5 years. They're struggling with gross margins. They paid a lot of tax last year. Just give it a little bit of context, press enter, and just be blown away with the template that ChatGPT is giving you, basically a framework on how to have that advisory conversation with your client. If you take it one step further and you show a trends report, so you show 5-year P&L all back to back and say, hey, take a look at the trajectory, the trends. What else could you tell me based on the trends and the trajectory? So that would be the first thing you would go, okay, I see real practical advice here. The second thing I would try is maybe take a spreadsheet or a CSV file, download it from a credit card or a bank, and upload it into ChatGPT, all the transactions, and say, hey, if you had to build a P&L from this, where you have to guess what which accounts are income and which accounts are expense and which category it should be, could you build this for me so I can evaluate? And have ChatGPT literally build the P&L for you. I guarantee it won't be accurate. It won't be 95% accurate, but it will be enough for you to go, interesting. This is something that's going to be working alongside of me, right? Because I believe that in the not so distant future, people will connect their banks and their credit cards, press a button, and a P&L, let's call it a pro forma P&L and balance sheet, would be built. And then our job is going to be to go back and verify the work. So instead of spending 95% of the work doing data entry and 5% of the time verifying it, we're going to spend 5% of the time just clicking a few things to automate the data entry, and then 95% of the time correcting and interpreting it. This will give you an edge over somebody that's spending most of their time doing the manual data entry. So I would say that would be fundamentally the ways you can get into ChatGPT and go, okay, there's some real tangible things here. I would say that's how you would get started.
Oh, those are two amazing steps to get started. And well, there's maybe 3 in there, but that's a great start for anyone to start to see the power of it, and then just go from there. And the again, barrier to entry, 0. You need an internet connection and a browser, and you got a free account to access incredible computing power, which is just mind-boggling. So exciting. Hector, you're up to some really cool things. You're a gift to the industry. It is such a pleasure chatting with you. I learned so much again since, I remember back to that episode in 2019. I know I came away with that enlightened, and this is, again, another case of that. It's been our pleasure, and I want to thank you for your generosity and spending your time with myself and our listener today.
No problem. Thank you. The pleasure was all mine. And I'll see you next time.
Absolutely. And you will be a speaker this year at the Successful Bookkeeper Summit, which we're gonna get some more knowledge from you. So if you have not registered for your pass to the Successful Bookkeeper Summit, you can get your free pass there. If you want to treat yourself, upgrade to an all access or a VIP pass, but you can do that at the successfulbookkeeper.com/summit. I can barely get that out of my mouth today, but go get registered. Hector's going to be putting on. I've seen the talks that Hector has put forward. They look interesting and exciting, and as you can tell from this conversation, absolutely innovative. And so we'll look forward to that. And again, thank you, Hector.
Thank you so much.
An amazing conversation with Hector. A big thank you to him for being on the show. I hope you, the listener, received some valuable information and are excited about technology from our chat. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.